Well, good evening, folks. We're live. We've got the We the People live content creators tonight. We're going to try something a little different. Take on some current topics and just kind of discuss them from each of our points of view. We've got Cash Loren from the Cash Loren Show. We've got Range Minded Podcast from Range Minded Podcast. And we've got John Cox from 2A Talk and Tactical. And of course, we have our trusty producer and sometimes co-host, sometimes guy just sitting in the back, Kingdom Radio.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about a couple of things that popped up today. One in particular is Lizzo. And Cash, I think you brought that story to us. Lizzo reacting to a South Park episode that maybe didn't show her in the best light.
Yeah, this is absolutely hilarious. And it's amazing to me that South Park has not been canceled yet, because some of the clips they pull, like this one right here, yet they always seem to get a pass. So here it is. I think so. This is new technical stuff.
Telling you, Sheila, these new drugs are pretty amazing. I was feeling so ashamed of myself, watching Randy go out and exercise all the time and not eating as much. But I just don't have the same kind of willpower he has.
Which of the drugs are you on, Sharon? Ozempic, Mounjaro?
Oh no, I talked to my doctor. He said insurance would only pay for those if I had diabetes.
But if you can't afford them, then how are you managing your weight?
Don't you know, Sheila? Now there's a whole new obesity drug for those of us who can't afford Ozempic and Mounjaro. I've controlled all my cravings to be thinner with Lizzo.
It's Lizzo. FDA-approved Lizzo makes you feel good about your weight, and it costs 90% less than Ozempic.
I've lowered my standards and my expectations.
Wow.
Wow.
In case studies, 70% of patients on Lizzo no longer cared how much they weighed.
I don't give two shits.
Lizzo helps you eat everything you want and keep physical activity to a minimum. Some patients report constipation while listening to Lizzo. Stop listening to Lizzo if you experience suicidal thoughts. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis, hypothermia,
What the
and
fucking
literally
album?
bleeding out your ears. Are you living with concerns of obesity?
Ask about the power of not giving a fuck with Lizzo.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, is South Park wrong on that? We've kind of seen a move towards this. I mean, when I was 18, 19 years old, you weren't quite obese or even considered overweight on the cover of Sports Illustrated, but that's not the case today. So is South Park correct?
I think this is just a byproduct of wokeness, right? Of accepting everything and needing everything in society. Obviously, Lizzo and there's plenty of other popular overweight people. Not saying overweight is bad, but it is kind of unhealthy. They're not. I don't think they're wrong on this. I think, and honestly, I think South Park is uncancelable because they attack everybody equally, and that's what makes it so great, actually.
That and it's cartoon characters, so it's not actually a real person. It's like you can say whatever you want when you have a puppet. It's like a puppet,
Like the president.
like Eminem. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is not the worst thing or that might have offended somebody, especially on the left, that South Park's done. I mean, this is not like it's happened once or even twice. It happens pretty regularly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
just
have a well-known show jump on board with it, kind of
Well-
like you asked for it.
Well, let me ask you this: should Lizzo have been surprised or even offended by it? I mean, she takes on her size as that's not a problem.
Yeah, that's a badge for her, and maybe that's why it's so hard for her to swallow. Is when people see or mock it, right? And I think there's all of us have something that we take pride in that's been mocked at some point, and sure we get offended by it, but it's how we react after the fact that makes the difference. So I'm curious to see what she does tomorrow, right? Or what if she said anything today or not. I'm pretty curious, but hopefully she takes it in stride. Hopefully she doesn't go too harshly on it.
That's what I was getting ready to say. She could take it in stride and make the best out of it, or
She could make a lot of money off of this if she
Yeah.
played her cards right.
or she could go on the defensive and say, well, this is,
It's fat shaming.
Or pretend to be offended to get more attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, more like it.
You saying that she's a sociopath, or what are you trying to say here?
No, it's like, hey, South Park made a show about me. I know it's supposed to be making fun of me, so I'll pretend to be upset. But look at all this attention I'm getting. Everyone likes to play the victim, especially when they get exposure and it works out to their benefit. It becomes like a habit.
Yeah, I'd be honored to be on South Park.
Yeah. And I would complain, I can't believe they called me stupid. But really, I'd rather be, stupid with 1 million viewers. Sounds great. Let's do it. Let's be stupid tomorrow, too.
How dare you make me more famous?
I know. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Lizzo,
I don't think
she
even
should
know
be
who
surprised.
Lizzo is.
I don't think she should be surprised it may be a little bit of a tell when South Park brings it to the forefront like that a lot of other people find it ridiculous as well. But who knows?
I think it's crazy that Kingdom has no idea who Lizzo is.
Well, it'd be like, saying range-minded podcasts on The Simpsons. You're like, oh my God, that would just be awesome that I get the exposure. Regardless of what they say, they're saying it in a comical way.
Yeah, but Lizzo is far more famous than I am.
She weighs more than you, I believe, as well.
Why is she famous?
I think she outweighs you too.
Why is she? I don't know why she's more famous, because her songs are terrible.
Oh, she's a musician?
Yeah. Not a magician, but a musician.
Why don't you take the time and do a Google search on Lizzo? It might catch you up.
Now you're going to make me see. South Park is working already.
She played Thomas Jefferson's crystal flute at the presidential banquet or whatever. You didn't hear that story?
No, sorry.
Oh man, dude.
Yeah, sorry.
Where have you been?
What rock have you been living under?
My gosh, Christmas lights get in
we've
your
all
face.
been
What's
paying
going
attention to Joe Biden, but you. It's like, I'm sorry.
Well,
I missed it.
Speaking of presidential candidates, did anybody catch Donald Trump's speech at the Libertarian Party, the Libertarian National Convention yesterday?
I heard clips of it. I heard that he did a great job. It was kind of like being behind enemy lines where these weren't his normal supporters. Kind of like similar to the Bronx, but the Bronx went great.
Yeah, they booed him. Let's listen.
At first, yeah.
There has never been a group of people treated so harshly or well, in the last year, I've been indicted by the government on 91 different things. So if I wasn't a libertarian before, I sure as hell am a libertarian now. And unlike Joe Biden, I don't throw people in jail for disagreeing with me. I don't do that. D-Roy wrote, Donald J. Trump will address the Libertarian Party and its national convention on Saturday. The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for President of the United States. Whoa. That's nice. That's nice. Only if you want to win. Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Thank you, D-Roy. Thank you. No, only do that if you want to win. If you want to lose, don't do that.
What do y'all think about that so far? Now, this is the Associated Press. They're probably showing excerpts of the booing versus any of the cheering. I think there was some cheering going on as well. But Trump made some promises to put a libertarian in his cabinet and libertarians in his government.
This is very courageous of Trump. They go into a libertarian and say what he said into their own convention. I mean, you ever see Joe Biden doing that? Going somewhere that's hostile? He can't even do a friendly softball.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And Joe Biden can't even speak a sentence. And Donald Trump is willing to take the risk, just like he did in New York, where he was going to go into the Bronx and have a convention.
Does it show desperation?
I don't think so at all. I think what he's doing is he's absolutely right. What he's pointing out into the Libertarian Party is that Libertarian Party tends to take about 3% every 4 years, and they never go anywhere, and they end up kind of wasting their votes. And how many states are won by 1 or 2%? Enough to swing who wins the presidency. So I think he had a lot of courage to do so.
Okay, I'll give him some courage. They were holding up signs "Free Ross," and this is a Ross Ulbricht, the
I was gonna ask
creator
about
of the Silk Road. He said he would commute his sentence to time served. This guy's been in for 11 years, but he ran. One could argue one of the largest retail drug sites ever known to man on the dark web, where you could order anything that you want and anything that was unlawful, pay in Bitcoin, and have it shipped. He was a curator of that site.
Interesting.
So, I mean, that fits on the libertarian side. Does that fit on the Republican side?
Well, kinda, in my opinion, because
Not the rhino side, but I'll let John go. Sorry. Go ahead, John.
but there's no victim here. So it kind of falls in line with what Trump's dealing with now. This is what other people done. And I mean, he was just the creator of the website. I think it does help Trump in that aspect because Ross is a libertarian, and they don't like it. The liberals don't like what has happened to one of their own. So you've got a Republican presidential candidate that has come out, like Cash said. I mean, it was very courageous for him to step in that ring, and then to go out and say, "Yeah, I'm going to commute him." In my opinion, I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse, but I think maybe Trump has in his mind he's got this wrapped up, but you don't count your eggs just yet. But
Chickens before they hatch.
yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Producer. But yeah, I mean, what did he have to lose? I mean, he's talking to a group of liberals. He has really nothing to lose per se, but he has them to gain. So I think it was not only courageous, but I think it was a good move.
I'll go back again because it's so a bit of desperation. If I'm looking to try to scoop up 3% of the vote.
Yeah, but okay, and I'll give you that, because look what he can say if he wins some of these states that have been blue for years. I don't know that. I mean, I'm 54. I don't know that that's ever been done, has it? I mean, I know it hadn't been done in the last.
Reagan won them all but one in his second. Term.
Minnesota, am I right? Cash.
So that, I mean, that in itself, if he's able to do that, I mean, that's going to say a lot.
Well, we're considered now in presidential politics, we're considered to have 7 swing states. Basically, the rest are blue, the rest are red. And it's 7 that decide the presidency, where just a couple decades ago, most states were swing states. And we've seen them get more and more one direction. And part of this, I think, is each party is deciding that once they win a state to move on, and the other party then doesn't fight in that state anymore. And Donald Trump, I think, is finally realizing this, because a lot of these states are considered like deep blue. Like, I think he can flip New York red. The governor was only won by 5%. And this is supposed to be a deep blue New York. I think he could do it. And just like when he went into the Bronx, you saw all the support he had and all the cheering he had. It's time for Republicans to start fighting back.
How much of that cash? How much of that's going to equate to them dropping in the ballot box? How many of those folks? How many of those folks were actually from the Bronx? I mean, we don't know. They could have come from other areas. People do travel some distances to see a Trump rally.
Yeah, we don't know. I don't know the exact numbers, but I wouldn't say it'd be very much. I mean, most of the people there, they had even MSNBC went into the crowds and was talking to people thinking that they're going to have a hit piece. And most of the people that they were talking to said they're voted for Barack Obama and they voted for Joe Biden. Now they're going to vote for Donald Trump, and they cut the line. So I don't think it's a large amount at all. I mean, Trump's going to have a crowd anywhere he goes, but I think most of the people, they seem like they're legitimately there, and they're legitimately there for him, and they're legitimately going to vote Republican for the very first time. And this is what's important for the Republicans to understand, that the uniparty is dying and the rhinos are dying. The idea of just giving the Democrats everything they want, people are sick and tired of it. And we finally have someone like Trump who will just fight and wants to win. And we've been craving that for years. And we also, talked about on my show where there's about only 25% of gun owners who vote. And I think a lot of that comes in just this time. They're sick of politicians not fighting for them and not representing them. And we finally have someone who does. So I don't think it's just crossing the aisle that he's doing. I think he's also bringing in voters that normally don't vote that will now vote this year.
That would be great. But then I've got the concern is that I've gotten the blue hand off my neck, but I got a red hand on my neck now. I think that the Republican Party has not been an advocate for, in my opinion, individual freedoms. I think we talked about the NRA. Most of us were in here on that show on the NRA, where they've had their hand in every bit of gun legislation that's a restriction on gun ownership, going back to the 60s, maybe even further back then, maybe as far back as the NFA. Maybe Raines, you could help me with that if you know, or John. But it kind of goes back again. I mean, these guys aren't fighting for us; they're just trying to say, "Well, we didn't let them hit you so hard." But eventually, the daylight you see with freedom starts to close up. It's all in shade at that point with legislation and laws. So
the Republican Party is changing. We're seeing a movement like the Democrats saw in the 60s right now.
Brother, I'm hearing it, but I'm just not seeing anything coalesce. I see groups of people and they say they're it sounds good on the different sides that are coming out, but I don't see a coalesced, unified Republican message.
Yeah.
Well, they're still cleaning house right now, but let me ask you this. When Trump was in office, what rights did you lose?
Bump stocks. There's a few.
The list goes on and on.
The list goes on. Well, we start talking about what Trump did as far as, was he a really champion for individual rights? No. Under COVID, we had draconian COVID rules. But
that wasn't from Trump. That was from governors. Trump didn't shut anybody down.
No. Well, he didn't have the ability to. You're right.
No, they were trying to force him to shut the country down.
But he did force it on government facilities and in the military.
And the vaccine.
And the vaccine. That was under his administration.
No, the things happened under his, but it wasn't from Trump. Trump didn't shut anybody down. He sent it back to the governor.
If he is the president of the United States, the executive of the executive branch, and I've got any A, B, C, E, F, G, H, I department that institutes on and impedes upon my rights as an individual citizen, then that's the man I've elected to make sure that doesn't happen. So and I'll go with you on that. I don't know that it was all Trump. I think Trump got rolled. He got played by the people he was there to get rid of. I'll give him that. I'm willing to give him another administration, but I won't go back and say Trump has been this bastion of freedom, this bastion of even economic policy, because they let COVID go to their head. They spent so much damn money before they can even figure out what they were testing for, that we're still, and our children are going to deal with that inflation wave that's going to ripple through time, because it just doesn't go away when you print money and hand out trillions of dollars. The construction industry is decimated from COVID. It's not the same. Even guys that are doing halfway decent, they're not making the money they were making before. The jobs aren't as sure, and their employees are coming and going faster than you know. Let's don't. We can talk about Trump, but if we talk about Trump as being this
don't talk too good about
the hill. Yeah. On the hill. Well, let's talk about truth. That's all I'm saying.
Cash, I agree with you, bro. I agree with you.
And I said this back then. I don't think it was necessarily him. I think it had a lot of that fell on his advisors. And at the same time, you're looking at, look at the magnitude that COVID was. I'll try to put myself in his shoes as just a civilian. What would I have done? You can either make a decision and it be right, or make a decision and it be wrong. And then you fall back on your advisors. You fall back on what you're being told.
By September of that year, they should have pulled off all the stuff. I'll give them until September. Anybody in the government that was riding it hard until September of that year, I'll give them to them. After that, we knew, because if you hadn't died from it, you already had it. It just wasn't that much of an issue.
But was that snowball already rolling that you couldn't stop it? Rhetorical question.
All I'm saying is, if I'm electing the commander in chief, he should be the most
I don't think you
in
understand
charge son
Trump.
of a bitch in the federal government.
No,
That's all I'm saying.
that's way out of line. I don't think you understand Trump for a couple of reasons here. For one, Trump is not an ideologue. He has never been one. He really does believe in the institution of the United States. Now, he might have been fooled into thinking what the federal government was actually about because he's never been in the government before. He was private citizen his entire life, and he's mostly a Democrat. But he believes in the separation of church and state. He believes in the separation of state powers and federal government. I mean, he believed in everything the U.S. is supposed to stand for. And I think Trump really got slapped in his face in his first administration because he didn't realize how deep the deep state was. Even when he was getting out of office, he was saying that I didn't realize how deep the swamp was. And to try to put this all on Trump, I think is to say that you don't understand Trump because he believed in separating everything out like it should be.
Here's what I understand.
And Trump shut nothing down. That to say that Trump shut anything down is a bald-faced lie.
Okay.
Oh, this is
So
getting good.
so your VA hospitals were open?
No, I'm not saying everything was
government-
open. California was shut.
Hold up, but that's federal property. I'm talking
Right,
on federal property.
That's not from Trump's order, is what I'm saying.
Look, man,
Trump-
if you're gonna keep putting me off, every time I say Trump, you tell Trump's good. I'm not saying Trump's bad. I'm just saying let's look at what he said. Let's go back to after the Pulse shooting, when his response to red flag law, something we're still dealing with today, where he was kind of for that. But he said, well, he was gonna take their firearms from them before any due process. Due process didn't need to be handled under this situation because it's such an emergency. That's what the man that you say is all for separation of church and state. And I understand the Constitution and he stands up for individual freedoms. I'm saying he had knee-jerk reactions under his administration. And I think the guy's a pretty decent guy. I think you and I probably think about the same thing. I don't think Trump's as bad as what people say he is, but I don't think he is attuned to individual freedoms as he says he is. I think he's starting to learn. I like the fact that he's been charged with the crimes he has and gets to see what the average American has to deal with when the state puts their boot on your neck. I'm glad he's going through that. So for that reason alone, I would almost vote for him. So that's what I want my executives to understand is that what you do affects all of us. And those statements that he made, it doesn't say that he's a bastion of freedom. And he attempted to do these things, by the way. But the due process is just something he couldn't even get around. The bump stock, with the NRA's help, they were able to get some executive orders out and redefine how that was interpreted by the ATF, which is that lettered agency that he's the executive branch he's in charge of. Start enforcing butt stocks. It's before the Supreme Court now. It's going to get shot down, I believe. But either way, Trump started that.
I almost wonder too with Trump, like when we go to his administration, we talk about COVID. Ultimately, Trump is responsible, even though it might be his branches of the government, his executive people out there making decisions. Ultimately, the buck stops at Trump. Ultimately, because he is the commander in chief. But I almost wonder. Let's just imagine for a second. What if these people were set there on purpose to make Trump fail in a way that he was unelectable the second go round? Maybe he got bad information because the left and the right, honestly, Republicans hate Trump. Maybe it was something by design to keep him from running again or to make an obstacle for people to want to vote for him a second term. And apparently it must have worked.
Yeah, no, I think that, and I say he got rolled. I think they got the better of him. I think he put up a good fight, but I think they got the better of him. His foreign policy was tight. His energy policy was tight. The America we were living prior to COVID is America I'd like to go back and live in. It was prosperous and stuff was moving. So don't get me wrong when I start beating up on him, but I'm also not one of those things that he's just got all the right answers. I'm hoping he listens to some of the right people this next time.
Trump did a great job, man.
One thing I really love about Trump is Republicans or Democrats, they don't know how to handle him because he is so outside of their box, their narrative. He's I don't want to say he's wily, but he understands business because he's such a shrewd businessman. He knows how to handle negotiations and conversations that are difficult. Whereas when you get in the framework of politics, just like the cat fight that was the other day, that they're fighting in this box that they get so self-absorbed into that when somebody comes in that's an outsider and knows how to communicate and knows how to argue and honestly knows how to insult properly, they don't know how to handle this guy. And so they're intimidated by him. They know that he's a viable option for president. So they're going to do everything possible that they can to keep him from getting back into the administrative office, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's not the typical
All right,
politician.
you ready to hear some truth, man?
All right,
Drop
go
it,
ahead
dude.
with it.
You ready to hear some truth, man? I mean,
Go with
look,
it, Kate.
the whole thing about Donald
Okay, that's
Trump
enough.
is yeah, exactly. Like Dexter Taylor said, where I live, there's a lot of black conservatives. There's a lot of people with old school conservative views. But these politicians won't come into the Bronx and even talk with us.
Yeah.
They won't even show their face around here. And so then you see Trump go to the Bronx and he didn't have, I mean, I've seen, and me and Cash probably both have seen 30 campaign speeches, rallies, and stuff. And he says you could almost complete his sentences. I've seen so many and heard so many. But when he was in the Bronx, being from New York, he kind of went into like, he didn't go into a lecture. He went into a lesson, and he was like, if you want to be successful, these are the things you've done, and here's the accomplishments that I've made along the way, and here's the things I've done for New York. And then also people can empathize that they're out to attack him, and he's from New York. I think New York was a big thing. It was a big moment for him coming back home to New York, especially as being tried and everything in New York. I definitely thought that was big for him. You could tell that he was, the MSNBC was talking about he's going for the black vote, but it's not that far from the truth. And I think a lot of people of color are thinking that Trump is going to be a good option. Another thing is you see that Joe Biden, they're grasping at straws of like paying people's education. Like I'm going to pay billions and billions of dollars in education, paying off people's student loan debt. But Trump, to say, hey, I'll just go ahead and free this person, that it really is not a big deal. That sounds like a way better deal than paying billions of dollars to buy people's votes. Don't you think?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah, and then the whole like coronavirus, like, hey, like coronavirus, Shimonavirus, whatever. It's not going to hurt us. It's probably like some bleach wash it off. You find then I'll say, oh shit, there's people dying, dude. There's thousands of people that are dying. Are you serious? And you're like, no, everyone's like Pompous Pilate. If you're familiar with the Bible story, Pompous Pilate, I don't want blood on my hands. You make the decision. Let's just give it to the states and let you decide whether people die, live. That way, if some shit happens, I don't want to be the one with the blood on my hands. So give it back to the states. You also seen that like the Boston Marathon, where they locked the whole fucking city down for like a week. And then finally Obama called and was like, hold on, dude, you haven't caught this damn guy yet. He's making you look stupid. You need to let these people out of their house. But at some point the government does step in, but the coronavirus was unprecedented. He was a great president, but I don't expect anyone to have handled that well. I thought he handled it well compared to other presidents around the world. But can you Monday morning quarterback coronavirus? Yeah, we still are right now. But when you have the smartest person in the world, Dr. Fauci, that we thought at the time, and he's saying this is what you should do, he pushed back, but he did push it to the states. And I thought he handled it rather well, even though the whole fucking thing was a disaster. Yeah.
well, that's why I say, I mean, and that's been part of my aggravation with the man from get-go, is I don't agree with everything he says. And sometimes, yes, he says some stupid stuff. And that wasn't, I would have hoped to think he wasn't being serious when he said, yeah, drink bleach. But that wasn't the time to be joking either. People didn't know what was about to happen. You had people dying. So yeah, I mean that. But I like him. I mean, he's not the typical politician, and I think that's what we needed. I think that's definitely what we need now, and I think he learned a lot during those 4 years that he can definitely use this go around and do things a little bit different. And yeah.
Well, your president's either going to be Joe Biden or Donald Trump. That's going to be your choices. This idea that DNC is going to replace Biden at the convention, I don't think that can happen. But either way, it's going to be a Democrat or it's going to be Donald Trump. So let's go that. So how was your life under Donald Trump versus how it is under Joe Biden? Does anyone think that their life is better now than it was?
I don't know. And
Okay.
I think that's why you have so in the past the diehard Democrats that are they're now saying, well, he's our best option. I mean, look at this other guy. I know we sit back and joke about him not being able to complete a one sentence, but it's true. And I think people are finally coming, that they're finally admitting it. And even if they won't admit it out loud, they're admitting it to themselves. And it's like, dude, we got to do something different. And, you know, I'm not trying to go down this road, but, you know, you look at the people that are in the poverty sectors. I mean, you know, God bless, where are they now? I mean, you know, they were already struggling, you know, before Biden. But now it's like, you know, I mean, I've heard it from them themselves. They're worse off. They're like, we cannot stand. I mean, look at the crime rate. I mean, and Joe can tell you, I mean, being in law enforcement, I mean, you see people that are already at their lowest of lows. And for whatever reason, you know, they're breaking in houses, they're committing crimes to either support their habit, or hell, at this point now, they're committing crimes to put food on the damn table or in their cabin.
Yeah, crime historically goes up when the economy's in a downturn.
Yeah. I mean,
and folks, I wasn't trying to stir up an emotional vein on Trump. I'm voting for the guy, and I'm rooting for him. I think he's coming in this administration smarter than he went in the last one. In Kingdom, I'll push back on you. The federal government doesn't have the authority to come in. FEMA, you have to request even for FEMA to come in and take action in a state. States have the authority all along. My fear is that the federal government was going to try to usurp that and try to interject some sort of civil action that would be applicable in all states. But that's why we saw it different from state to state. But we know what we need to move on. And I want to go back to Cash. Cash brought up a point that we talked about offline on some trans athletes in Oregon and Washington that are some state record holders or some state title holders now. Cash?
Correct. Yeah. And we're on YouTube also, correct? We're streaming on YouTube?
Yes, sir. We're streaming on YouTube.
Okay. So part of this, we have to preface it with, we have to push back against, so transgender being a biological male that considers themselves a female. And so they competed in women's sports, but we can't say what they actually are because YouTube gets mad. So transgender women won both the Oregon State and Washington State track meets for women. And they won them by a large margin. In fact, I got one of the Washington that we can play right now. It's a few seconds long. And then look how far ahead the transgender woman is ahead of the other women.
Yeah, there was a clear winner.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Well,
and right, and the idea comes, what the left is trying to say is that so anyone can decide they're a woman at any time. And do we not have reality anymore or facts? We all know. I mean, you got the whole joke with the documentary of what is a woman. And what Matt Walsh went around and asked everybody, and you had women sitting there laughing because they're pretending that they didn't know what a woman was. And then you're watching this. The question I'd ask you guys is, how far does this get to go before we say enough is enough?
Didn't it start with participation trophies where everyone gets a trophy? And then it was like, oh, well, men can be in women's sports. I mean, it's just, where does that shit stop, dude? This is ridiculous, especially in sports. Men do not have a place in women's sports, just like in the military. The men and women just have different amount of push-ups and different standards for physical, or like a UFC. You want to have this man fight this woman. It's like, when does it stop, dude? This shit's out of control. I mean, yeah, you can swim faster, run faster, and all these other things, but I mean, where do you draw the line? It's ridiculous. I don't agree in it one bit, but it's 100% politics. Is all it is politics.
Well, the thing that frustrates me is we get climate change and global warming, and also when I was a kid, global cooling shoved down our throats daily, right? Daily. We have to trust the science. But when we actually have scientific background on what is the difference between a male and a female, well, then that science doesn't matter because they can choose what they want to be. They can choose their truth. No, men and women are physically built differently. Their skeletons are different. Their muscle strengths are different. They are different. That is science. That's pure science. But we can't trust that. But we can when it's bullshit when it comes to global warming. So it's all this. It just drives me freaking crazy. Like I don't understand these people, and they don't want us to understand them because they want to control the argument by controlling the narratives.
What's like the other day, I forget what the hearing was about, but she chimed in and she's like, "How is that fair? How is that freaking fair?" Well, you look at that video clip right there that Cash just played, and put yourself in the bleachers. How is that fair?
Well, I guarantee you this, the biological male, the transgender one was probably a beta male, and probably record time would have sucked against males, because that's what we see over and over and over again. We're talking about
the gains, right?
Right. I'm gonna get it right again in a second. But we had like one like Phelan Fox, if you remember, for a few years ago, where it was a MMA fight. So this is a biological male who hit a woman so hard he cracked her skull open in the ring. And then we had a Canadian weightlifter who was no one would ever heard of unless they transitioned to a woman, won championship and set lifelong records that have never been set before and would be nowhere. You had Leah Thomas, who you just brought up, against Riley Gaines. So Leah Thomas was in near the 500s when was swimming against men, and then went all the way to win a national championship. This is college level swimmers, some to go on to the Olympics, won a national championship. How is this right? And it just continues to go on from there. There was another track meet where the person that won, the females, they would have been last place against males, but they got first against females in the very same district.
Well, and I guess that's my question. As one of these athletes, why are they doing it? Is it the prestige of saying, "Hey, I won a national championship by
because
this
they're a
margin"?
narcissist? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, it's like,
Let's don't forget now it's legal for companies to pay college collegiate athletes endorsement. You're running number one, you're catching some medals. There's some cash in there, especially for women athletes. There's not a lot of professional sports beyond the collegiate level that they can make money at. So, I mean, the NBA, that's a pipe dream they're going to keep talking about, that someday that there's going to be enough people that are going to want to watch the NBA that it's going to be competitive on salary with the NBA. We all know that's not true. But, and I also think that the argument that we keep trying to make to try to prove that even the most novice person who's never participated in any organized sports knows that it's not fair. It's not a thing of fair. They're looking at something called equity. And honestly, I think it's going to run its course, and it's going to be by region. Like in Texas, I think they passed some laws about you have to participate in the sport of your gender at birth, not what you just think you are. But I think you'll see it state by state. I don't think you'll see it on the federal level. You've already got Title IX. The administration's already bowed down on that to acknowledge that a trans woman is an actual woman, therefore has protections in Title IX. We've done a couple of spaces on this where we broke that stuff down. But I think people are going to have to get fed of it. It goes back to, as Big Ron likes to say, govern me harder, Daddy. And until everybody's fed up with it, and I think that's when you see the pushback. But I think the argument that it's fair is talking to you blue in the face. Everybody already knows it's not fair.
Oh yeah.
Well, have you seen any of this in law enforcement? And the reason I ask that is, BLET is a male, the dummy drag. You have to be able to drag a 250-pound dummy backwards. So, so far. A female, you got to drag a 125-pound dummy. So, but I guess, back to that question, are you seeing this in law enforcement? Well,
our good friend Phil says that there's the first transgendered Arizona State troopers about to graduate, or probably has already graduated since the last time he told me this a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Women
aren't going into male sports. It's not even a thing because it's two different types of people. But the one question I had, before I tell you about this new Governor Greg Abbott new fentanyl law he just passed that puts you in life if you're caught with fentanyl in Texas now. But the hell was I saying? Oh, if you get arrested, which jail are they putting you in? If you're like, no, I'm a female. Put me with all those females because of this reason and that reason. You're like, look, you have a dick. You're going over here with the men's jail, right? Or how does that work? Where do you draw the line there? You're arresting somebody.
Well, prisons already have is that they're putting these biological males in women's prisons because they identify as female, and then it
Oh,
turns
they
out
are?
women start getting pregnant. Yeah, it's already happened.
Yeah,
Oh.
different
Saw that
states.
the other day.
California's done it. Your blue states, they're doing it.
New Jersey, I believe,
Mhm.
2 women got pregnant by the same transgender woman before they had to move them back out.
That's impossible, Cash. That is completely and wholly
How
untrue.
dare you speak
Woman
biological
Yeah.
cannot get
facts.
a
How
woman
dare you?
pregnant.
Yeah.
How
Well,
dare you?
The
in
tampon
the-
dispenser in the men's bathroom.
The state of Idaho actually lost a lawsuit against an inmate, and the state has to now pay for the gender reassignment surgery because he didn't feel like he belonged where he was and needed to go to the women's side of the prison, but he needed the plumbing to go on that side of the prison as well. And so, the state of Idaho is now we're paying for his reassignment surgery, which is fantastic.
We just joined the Navy to get that, right?
Well, you could.
Well,
That's what the
unfortunately,
recruiter says. If you
not-
join here, we'll chop your dick off for you.
But
Pay
let's
for everything.
say-
it's not the Navy, my friend. It's all of
Space
them.
Force.
That's
Oh,
the
is it everything?
policy. Yes, it is. Unfortunately,
Let's say you're facing some hardcore felony or something. You're going to go to prison. Are you going to want to be in there with men or with women? Right. And so
I don't
there's
want to
a
be there
lot
at
of,
all.
well, okay, but the incentive then, right, is you figure a woman's side jail would be a lot easier for you to survive than the male's jail. And we see the same thing in sports. We brought up, you have prize money now that women have lost. You lose championships, you lose sponsorships, you lose scholarships. There's a lot for women to lose, and they have to fight so hard for this stuff. I played a clip of one of my shows not too long ago. His mother was in tears because her daughter lost out on a scholarship to a transgender. She was the one spot out. They got knocked out. And I just got to ask, what's going to happen if you go to a volleyball game as it gets more and more competitive? What's going to go when you go there, your daughter sits on the bench because there's 5 transgender women, biological males, that are starting because they're bigger, stronger, faster, and all the actual biological women are sitting on the bench. I mean, how far does this go before we say enough is enough?
Yeah. In Texas, we call those dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of dudes,
you know what, Cash. I think the answer to your question is just merely it goes to when those people in those jurisdictions that run those sports and those rules, when they have enough, when it's their daughter that's setting out, when it's enough women that realize that are honestly old enough to know when Title IX really got kicking, which was in the 70s, that actually opened the door for women to have competitive sports at both high school and a collegiate level. When they want to go back and endorse that, hopefully we'll see it in November when folks show up at the ballot box. We don't just see super concerned about who our president is, but they're more concerned about maybe who the school boards and everybody else that they're electing are. But I think that's when we see a change.
Right. We've got to go down. But I think ultimately what's going to happen is women are going to have to stand up and refuse to compete. Without that, I think this will continue. I think at some point they're going to have to picket. They're going to have to boycott. They're going to have to strike, or this never ends. That's where I stand.
yeah, I think you're already seeing that, right?
I think you're seeing that. I think you got to win it in the ballot box. I think that's the only way to win it is in the ballot box. Hey, I want to welcome Vet LT3. He's probably been out doing some hardcore Army training today, but good to have you on the show, Vet. Have you had a chance to listen? Are you caught up, or do I need to get John to give you a rundown?
Yeah, my apologies. A good rundown would be nice. After training yesterday, just doing a little family time right now, and so I'm hopping in, trying to.
I tell you what,
What's
let me give the rundown for you right now. We're about to go to Kingdom. He's bringing the Karen Reed story to us. I think from Turtle Boy's point of view, but what you did miss is that Kingdom's done a deep dive over the last couple of days into Karen Reed. Probably has become our in-house subject matter expert on the trial, on testimonies and different theories. But go ahead, Kingdom. You've got something for us on the Karen Reed?
Yeah, well, I was going to tell you about this little thing on X about Governor Greg Abbott. Dude, this guy got with the little tattoo neck here. This guy got arrested for fentanyl murder charge. And like, if you sell fentanyl, whether a drug is laced with something, there's fentanyl in something. If you sell fentanyl to someone else and they die in Texas, your ass is getting charged for murder and going to be put away with life, thanks to Greg Abbott and the new law he just passed. So sell one of those pills that were accidentally laced with fentanyl and someone dies, you got a murder charge coming, dog. And that's what happens here in Texas. I thought that was pretty interesting. And here's a little clip from Turtle Boy. Turtle Boy, have you been watching the Karen Reed trial? The Karen Reed trial, I just got fascinated by it. It's all about cop killer. Though there was a police officer, is a Boston police officer, John O'Keefe. He was killed on January 29th. He was at another sergeant's house. It's got the Massachusetts State Police. It's got FBI. It's got ATF. It's got all kinds of crazy stuff, man. This court case every single day has just been surprising the hell out of me. But here's a little intro from Turtle Boy, who is the journalist who is also under some charges and out on bond right now for witness intimidation. But here's old Turtle Boy.
And I will not be intimidated. I will not be silenced. And we will continue on our journey for justice for John O'Keefe and for Karen Reed.
Tick, tick, boom. Noise. Go, baby, we bringing out toys. Boys, chop up the singing should be on the voice. Bang, bang, we gon' ride out. Gang, gang, we don't die out. Want it like this, ain't no timeouts. Tell me who really gon' find out.
We be disturbing the peace. Working, we serving the streets.
Karen Reed has supporters who've shown up in large numbers.
Tick, tick, boom.
Hard body, and not scaring nobody. You make me resort to wildin'. You must be blind by the diamonds. I don't want it to be this way, but y'all won't need to try this, so it's no way around.
So that's Turtle Boy. Turtle Boy is he had about 5,000 followers and stuff like this, and then now he's got 70,000 followers in the matter of a couple weeks. He had his record-breaking show just a few days ago. He had like 7,000 people watching the YouTube live, and this is all because the Karen Reed trial, the murder trial, is, man, every single day, if you listen to this court case, every single day you're like, oh my God, they got him red-handed. How are they going to get out of this? It's one of those, like Joe Lanou said, one of those Perry Mason, where I'm not even trying to get my defendant, my client, I'm not even trying to get her innocent. I'm actually trying to solve the case and find out who did it in the court case. It's one of the most interesting court cases, kind of like O.J. Simpson. But this motherfucker was guilty, but you're trying to see if they can blame it on the mishandling of the evidence and the glove don't fit. I mean, all this kind of shit. But as soon as he was acquitted, you didn't look for the real murder. He did it, but the cops didn't do a very good job, of handling the evidence and whatever, in the defense and the prosecution about putting their case in. But this one, these police officers killed this other police officer, but they try to frame this woman, and you're going down through it. It's like, it's sucking me in, dude. But anyway, if you haven't seen that one, you can definitely catch up. They have thousands of videos on Court TV, and if you just search for Karen Reed murder trial, it's all over the place. I've been following it over the weekend. Happy Memorial Day, by the way, for all of the veterans, and people know veterans. It's not all about drinking beer and barbecues. Memorial Day is about remembering. And, O'Keefe being killed is a person who was a 16-year veteran of the Boston Police Department that was killed, regardless of who did it, just remembering that this Memorial Day weekend.
Well, I'm not even sure where to go with all that.
And there's that.
There's that. The Karen Reed trial, we've been doing that on We the People Live. It won't be back again until Tuesday, but we'll run it live there. Super interesting part right now. There's a Brian Hessen. Am I right on that?
Higgins, Brian Higgins, ATF agent.
Yeah, the ATF agent that is on trial. He was just hit at the end of the day on Friday with him using federal facilities and government property for personal use, and had to consult with his own attorney on the witness stand. And there's a lot of speculation that we're going to hear a lot of Fifth Amendment invoking. Come Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll see. He's getting close. Yeah, he's getting close. ATF agent. He's actually testifying as a witness because he was at the house. And if you don't know much about it, the reason why Karen Reed is being charged is they're saying that she backed her SUV Cadillac. I mean, it's a Lexus SUV. She backed her SUV into her boyfriend because they had like an argument as she dropped him off to the house, but both of his eyes are like blackened. He has 3-inch he has a 3-inch gap, out of his back of his head, and his forearm is like covered with dog bites, and both of his hands are all bruised. And they're saying that she backed up in his car when she was doing a 3-point turn in the snow, and that's how he died and left him out there. And they actually got Jennifer McCabe. She was texting at 2:00 in the morning, how long till you die in the cold? They got him, like they try to cover it up, but they have him with forensic investigation, where they have the phone records and all the stuff they deleted. So it's like all these lies, they're getting caught up in the lies in court every single day, and it's just so drawing you in. But at the end of the day, I don't know who can support a fucking piece of shit that's a cop killer, but it's actually the cops who did it. So it's really conflicting about who's the good guys and who's the bad guys here. But anyway, that's what's up with the Karen Reed trial.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. It's almost too much to go into. We'd have to do probably a 3-hour show and go detailed step by step how this took place. But I'm like you, I've been into it. It is like a Perry Mason court case. I'm expecting Drake to come in and whisper something in the attorney's ear, and shit's gonna go all to hell.
Yeah, where someone in the stands, oh, it was him in the bookshelf. It's just like you're waiting for that moment where they actually solve the crime in the case.
Right. It's going to happen.
Like it's heading there, though.
I think they'll leave it with some good reasonable doubt, but I think the defense is doing a great job. But John, you've been following the case. What do you think about that? Have you done any of this looking into the Turtle Boy like Kingdom has?
So, not as much as I wanted to, but yeah.
How much did you want to?
I wanted to get
we're streaming. I can't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. She gonna get off on this because he's looking bad right now.
100.
Higgins is. And like you said, I have to keep reminding myself, they gotta prove, that she done it. And there's a lot of reasonable doubt already. I was shocked.
Well, the advantage is to the defense in that case. Defense doesn't have to prove who did it. They just got to leave reasonable doubt on my client.
If I'm
I think they're up to their elbows with reasonable doubt at this point. I'm curious.
Oh,
to see
yeah.
what the defense would.
I think.
And by the way, folks, hold up.
Yeah.
Hold up, though. Keep this in mind. The defense has not. This is still the state's case. They have not turned it over. The defense has not even begun yet. This is going to be great. Those of you not tuning in, I suggest you do it. This is better than Days of Our Lives with real characters.
I do have a question though. So, Laura, my wife, and I were talking about this. Let's say you've proven your point that these police and this politician and this ATF agent and these other 2 cops and this person and that person, they all colluded and they covered it up and they actually did it and it happened in the house, which it looks like it's pointing that way. At what point, Karen Reed will be exonerated and whatever, but where do you go from there? How do you get someone else to take over the investigation and look in the guy's pool where they buried when they redid this concrete floor and all this evidence that shows he did it? What agency does it go from there to investigate the police? Because in Texas, it's like the Texas Rangers, right? But where would it be in Boston or in Massachusetts?
It could be the state police, but they could even make a deal and have agencies.
No, but the state police are in on it. That's who's handling it now.
Well,
it'd have to be the feds, I would assume.
Feds?
Let me know when y'all ready.
We're not ready. Yeah, we're ready.
They can make a deal with other states to bring in. Other states have come in and done these type of investigations before, and they could invite the Department of Justice. Department of Justice could do an investigation on their own on federal charges, which there would be some here if you framed a citizen for murder.
The FBI crime lab already went out there and they looked at the O'Keefe's body and they looked at how he was wounded and they looked at the crime scene, and the FBI already came to the conclusion there's no way that those injuries could have happened from her backing into him.
I haven't seen this report. Was that some testimony in the trial, or is that
no? It's the FBI report. I'll send it to you.
Okay. I'm sure the defense is going to introduce that.
Oh, 100%. They're going to call an expert witness that's going to say there's no way this happened. They could stop the trial right now today and say, jury, just deliberate and tell me what you think at this point. They're going to say they're going to acquit her now. This thing doesn't need to drag on, but it will. I bet you it's probably another week or two.
I hope so. I'm telling you that I started watching it about a week ago. I think last Thursday before last, and the days they don't have trial, I'm upset about it.
I know.
It is
another rerun. Shit, I was looking forward to something.
Folks, have you been around court cases before, been and set through many trials? This is one like this is a rare one. This is not boring. They're not laying foundation down for days or something that's obvious that happened. You really don't know what's going to come out of the next witness's mouth, and you don't know how that's going to change. It's been super interesting. If you're into that kind of stuff, you like any Perry Mason, this is a real live Perry Mason and whodunit going on right there. But
So I got
Vet,
a question for you, Joe.
I want to go to Vet. We're running out of some time here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to go to Vet, and Vet, I know you've had a chance to. You and I have discussed this case. We actually did a show on it last week, I believe. But what have you had a chance to watch any more, or you have a different opinion on the Karen Reed case?
Oh, I've been keeping tabs with the live feeds that you've been putting on and just watching everything. And yeah, I mean, all that evidence, especially everything that Kingdom's mentioning, that Turtle Boy was bringing up, it looks bad all the way around. I'm not going to say if she's innocent, if he's guilty, what. I'm just going to say it is a shit show. It is a whole bunch of evidence that isn't even evidence, honestly, that proves her guilty. It does show that something happened. It's very vague to have all those bruises, all those contusions, and all you have is a crack in a tail light, and that's it. And that was supposed to be the reason why he got killed, because she backed into him. Yeah, everything's fishy. I think she'll go free because the evidence is not even there. And I didn't even know about him getting his floor redone. And then of course the poor dog disappearing.
The dog is in the brother's pool. He redid his whole basement floor and everything. He didn't come out and talk. He's a first responder, didn't come out there at all because he had blood on his knuckles. The kid who's the football player, he had a picture on Facebook where his knuckles are all bloody, but he was hiding from the prosecutor. I mean, from the they never interviewed him or anything.
That picture was a month after the incident.
I know, but he's testifying that he's never been in a physical altercation. He's never been in a fight in his life. He actually got those bruises from a punching bag. And I don't know if he's calling O'Keefe a punching bag or what he's doing, but this whole thing, he was in there. The dog definitely got him in the arm. It's 100%. They never went into the house. The guy replaced the basement floor, smashed his phone, got a new phone, put all this stuff in his brother-in-law's pool. They filled in the pool in October, 2 days after the judge said, don't destroy any evidence. And they went through all this stuff. Turtle Boy, he's been following it. We're just catching up, but he's definitely shortening the gap of catching up for sure.
Yeah. Hey folks, we're going to do an hour tonight. Is everybody, do y'all want to continue or we want to stick it at an hour?
I'm good to go if you got some more stories to talk about. I know we had a couple on the list.
Well, actually, we've worked our list down to the 4 that we started.
You worked it out, Cash. How's your show going, dog?
It's going really good. We had talked about the George Floyd Remembrance Day that the Democrats.
Is that where they were painting on the statue and stuff?
Yeah. So did you want to get into that, or did you want to call it a night? I guess leave it up to you.
You know what? I'm going to go into a space after this. We can all join in the space on that, but all of you know why I want to shut it in now.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, let's run some. I will give everybody a chance. Everybody here, folks, are creators on either X or X and other platforms. We're going to run some promo for the Cash Lorenz show. We definitely recommend that you catch. He comes out live Monday through Friday. I forget the time slot. He'll let you know that as well. But he's also on We the People Live. We run all these content creators on We the People Live. But John, you're still working on your promo, but you're with 2A Talk and Tactical, and you're on YouTube.
On YouTube,
TikTok,
Instagram,
X,
the TikTok, Facebook. Yeah, keep up with 2 Second Amendment laws, bills coming out. I'm currently working on the Brian Malinowski saga involving the 3-letter agency. Yeah, they've kind of screwed the pooch on that one, but yeah.
Hey, John, guys, he'll give you some great takes on some of the legalities and police points of view, I should say, on a lot of stories and on just how the 2A is important to us. But we also have Range from Range Minded Podcast. I'm sure most of you guys have seen him that are watching. He has a podcast on, you're on everything. You're on Spotify. You're on, if it's got a podcast, it's got a Range Minded podcast. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I try to get everywhere I can. I also have, excuse me, I also have YouTube, TikTok. TikTok's been funny lately. They really, really hate me on TikTok for some reason.
Yeah.
Obviously X, because we're here right now. But yeah, and anywhere you can find your free podcasts, I'm probably there.
Well, I know that's true because I found you, I think, on every platform available to put a podcast on, including Spotify.
Sounds like time for a restraining order, dog.
Time for a restraining order. I'm on all of them.
You can't restrain this.
I found you everywhere.
No,
without a doubt.
Joe's been stalking you everywhere.
Now, folks, those don't know me, I'm Joe Lanou. I host a X Space show Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 Eastern time. My co-host here is veteran LT3. I've got a few other co-hosts. Interesting show. It's not an echo chamber. We like to keep opposing views going. But give us a follow on X and give us a subscribe on YouTube and catch our show. And I'm going to leave you with Cash. And Cash has got a promo loaded up. And then I'm going to finish with mine. Go ahead, Cash.
Yeah, so my show, when it's live at 11 a.m. Pacific and 3 p.m. or that'll be 2 p.m., Eastern. Our pre-recorded shows on YouTube and on X under Cash Lauren Show. And here it is. I can figure out how to do this ever. Independent thinkers, true seekers, conversationalists, the deplorables, and extreme MAGA Republicans. I'm your host, Cash Lauren, and the mainstream media has dominated the way that people gain information for decades. And it hasn't been until recent years, with the rise of independent journalism and social media networks, that we can finally expose them for the frauds that they are. You have the fake news networks like MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post. They are all in the bag for Democrats. But now you have another option. You can choose to be free by listening to shows like mine, The Cash Lauren Show, and other independent journalists throughout the country and the world. You can also support us. It means a lot. The easiest way is the free way, by liking, commenting, but most importantly, sharing an American First message with your friends and family, doing things like hitting the repost button. Beyond that, if you want to do monetary support, which you're grateful for, hit the Patreon link for a monthly or use the Cash App for a single donation. These help tremendously and help these shows grow as you can begin to hire more staff and more support and better technical equipment, all for your benefit, all so that you can receive fair and independent information without the mask of the fake news networks. We live in the greatest country this world has ever known, the United States of America. There has never been a better time to be alive than right now. A person can start with nothing and build vast amounts of wealth in a single generation. You can start with absolutely nothing and pick a career, pick your wildest dream, and make it become a reality. It's not easy. It takes years of hard work, dedication, and sacrifice. But you are the secret sauce. You are the best opportunity for your life because you will make the choices that matter the most, not some bureaucrat in Washington. So make the choice now. Help independent journalists like myself stay independent, and people like you who watch these shows, we thank you gratefully, continue to get a different point of view from a conservative perspective. I'm your host, Cash Lauren, and please consider supporting, and we'll be right back to the show.
Joe Lanou live on X.
Tonight, we're going to do this every Sunday night, same time. We'll have most of us in here and then some guests from time to time. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you later. I think we're probably going to kick up an X space here, most of us in it. If you want to join us and keep the conversation going, have a good evening. And remember, Memorial Day is the day of remembering those that have fallen. Enjoy your hot dogs, enjoy your swimming pool, enjoy your day out. That's what the fallen would want. We owe it to them to live a life well lived. Good evening.